You call that a laser cannon? My grandma's flashlight packs more punch. Captain Than of the Zorthian Empire winced at the human mocking words as another barrage of plasma bolts bounced harmlessly off the walls of the human military base. It was supposed to be an easy conquest, a simple show of force to subdue the primitive inhabitants of Earth, but nothing had gone according to plan since they landed. The initial descent had been flawless, their stealth technology ensuring they approached undetected. The humans were supposed to be caught off guard, their defenses easily overrun by the superior firepower and technology of the Zarthans, yet here they were pinned down by relentless counterattacks, the air filled with the deafening roar of human artillery and the staccato rattle of their automatic weapons. Sergeant Ramirez, grizzled and unflinching, surveyed the battlefield from the command center. They're persistent, I'll give them that, he muttered more to himself than anyone else. His radio crackled to life with the voice of Lieutenant Harris from the forward position. Sir, another wave is incoming. ETA seconds, requesting permission to deploy heavy ordnance granted. Ramirez replied without hesitation. Light them up. The base's defenses whirred into action, automated turrets swiveling to track the incoming alien craft's surface to a missile's straight into the sky, leaving trails of smoke before slamming into their targets with deadly precision. The resulting explosions lit up the night, casting eerie shadows over the battlefield. Darren ducked as another missile screeched past, the shock wave knocking him off balance. Curse these humans and their primitive yet effective weapons, he snarled, rallying his troops for yet another assault. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander VTH, approached with a worried expression. Captain, we've lost 2 more ships. Our troops are demoralized and their defenses are stronger than anticipated. We must reconsider our strategy. Thar's eyes blazed with anger. Reconsider? We are Zarthans. We do not retreat. Push forward. Use the disruptor beams. As Velith relayed the order, a sinister hum filled the air and a series of energy beams lanced out from the Zorthian ships. They struck the base's energy shields, causing them to flicker but not fail. The humans had reinforced their shields with a redundancy that the Zorthian had not anticipated. In the bunkers below, Corporal Johnson and his squad prepared for the inevitable breach. Remember, these guys might have fancy tech, but they've got no heart, Johnson said, his voice steady. We hold the line here no matter what. The squad responded with a determined chorus of affirmatives. Checking their weapons one last time, the ground shook as another volley of disruptor beams hammered the shields, and a low rumble indicated the Zarthans were deploying their ground forces. Here they come, Johnson muttered, gripping his rifle tightly. Let's show them what humanity's made of. The Zorthian infantry advanced under the cover of their disruptor fire, energy shields shimmering as they moved in tight formation. They expected the humans to break and run, but instead they were met with a withering hail of bullets and grenades. The human soldiers fought with a ferocity that took the aliens by surprise. Theron watched in disbelief as his troops faltered. Impossible, he whispered. These are just humans. But the humans were more than just a primitive species. They were survivors, warriors hardened by centuries of conflict and struggle. They fought not just with weapons but with a tenacity and cunning that the Zarthans had never encountered. Sergeant Ramirez coordinated the defense with the precision of a maestro, directing his men to exploit every weakness in the alien advance. Shift fire to sector, he ordered. Their bunching up hit them hard. A mortar team responded, sending a barrage of explosives into the Zorthian ranks. The ground erupted in flames and shrapnel, throwing the aliens into disarray. Theron roared in frustration, pushing his troops forward even as they fell around him. Hold the line, he shouted, for the glory of Zorth. But glory was a distant dream as the humans counterattacked with brutal efficiency. Lieutenant Harris led a flanking maneuver, his squads slipping through the chaos to strike at the heart of the Zorthian formation. They moved like shadows, appearing suddenly to unleash devastating fire before melting back into the darkness. Tarkin's forces were being torn apart, and he knew it. Desperation clawed at his mind as he watched his men fall. Foth, we must regroup, he shouted, but there was no response. Velith lay motionless, a bullet hole in his chest, eyes staring blankly at the sky. In the midst of the carnage, Terran's resolve began to waver. The humans were not the easy prey he had imagine. They were a force of nature, relentless and unyielding. As another wave of human soldiers surged forward, Theron felt a rare emotion, fear. Sergeant Ramirez saw the alien leader hesitate and seized the moment. All units, focus fire on their command, break them. The human soldiers responded with a roar, unleashing a torrent of fire that swept through the Zorthian ranks. Theron's last stand crumbled under the relentless assault, his dreams of conquest shattered by the indomitable spirit of the human defenders. As the sun began to rise, the Battlefield fell silent. The Zorthian invaders lay defeated, their ships smoldering wrecks, their troops scattered and broken. Sergeant Ramirez stood among the survivors, a hard-earned victory gleaming in his eyes. Guess they learned the hard way, he said, lighting a cigar with a shy hand. Earth ain't so easy after all. As the smoldering remnants of the Zorthian forces were cleared away, the human soldiers began to regroup and reinforce their positions. Sergeant Ramirez surveyed the aftermath, a grim satisfaction replacing his earlier Athenian. The alien technology, though advanced, lay in pieces around them, a testament to human resilience and tactical ingenuity. Captain Theron, battered and bound, was dragged before the Ramirez. The alien's defiant glare met the sergeant's steely gaze. Ramirez took a drag from his cigar, exhaling a plume of smoke into the morning air. Didn't expect us to fight back, did you? Ramirez said, his voice laced with both pride and contempt. Theron remained silent, his pride too wounded for words. Ramirez motioned to Lieutenant Harris. Get this one to the holding cells. I want intel on their command structure and their next move. As Harris led Aaron away, Corporal Johnson approached, saluting sharply. Sergeant, recon teams report more Zarian ships entering Earth's atmosphere. Looks like they're not done with us yet. Ramirez's expression hardened. Then neither are we. Get the men ready. We need to dig in and prepare for the next wave. In the depths of the Zorthian flagship, orbiting Earth, Admiral Zoran brooded over the reports of their initial defeat. His antenna twitched in frustration as he paced the command deck. How could they fail so miserably against a primitive species, he muttered. His tactical officer, Commander Ralph, approached with a data pad. Admiral, we have underestimated the humans' capabilities and resolve. Their tactics are unorthodox but highly effective. We need a new strategy. Zoran nodded, his mind racing through possibilities. Deploy the second wave with our heavier armor and artillery. We will bombard their positions from orbit to soften them up before the ground assault. No more underestimating these humans. Back at the human base, preparations were in full swing. Engineers reinforced the perimeter with additional layers of shielding and automated turrets. Artillery units were positioned to cover all approaches, and snipers took up concealed positions overlooking the battlefield. Sergeant Ramirez stood in the command center reviewing satellite imagery of the incoming Zorthian ships. They're bringing the big guns this time, he remarked. We're in for one hell of a fight. Corporal Johnson, now part of the tactical planning team, pointed to several key locations on the map. We should set up ambush points here, and here. Use the terrain to our advantage. They might have superior technology, but we know this land better than they do. Ramirez nodded in agreement. Good thinking, Johnson. Let's make sure they regret ever setting foot on Earth. As the second wave of Zorthian ships descended, the sky filled with the ominous hum of their engines. Orbital bombardments began shaking the ground and sending plumes of dust and debris into the air. The human base weathered the assault, its shields flickering but holding firm. Incoming, shouted a lookout, and the soldiers braced themselves for the next onslaught. The Zarthans landed with a thunderous impact, deploying heavily armored walkers and tanks. Their infantry followed, equipped with enhanced personal shields and advanced weaponry. This time they were ready for a protracted battle. Sergeant Ramirez watched through his binoculars as the alien forces advanced. Hold your fire until they in range, he ordered. Let them think they've got the upper hand. The Zorthian walkers lumbered forward, their energy cannons firing sporadically just as they reached the outer perimeter. Ramirez gave the signal. Now a barrage of artillery and rocket fire erupted from the human lines, targeting the walkers' joints and weak points. The NIL explosions staggered the alien machines, but they continued their advance, returning fire with devastating force. The ground shook as both sides exchanged heavy fire, each determined to outlast the other. Lieutenant Harris led a flanking maneuver, his squad moving with practiced precision through the rubble and debris. They set up anti-tank weapons in concealed positions, ready to strike at the advancing walkers. On my mark, Harris whispered. Fire. The anti-tank missiles streaked through the air, striking the walkers with pinpoint accuracy. Several of the massive machines toppled, crashing to the ground in fiery explosions. The Zarthan infantry, now exposed, came under heavy fire from the human defenders. In the midst of the chaos, Corporal Johnson led his team on a daring raid to disable one of the Zorthian command posts. They moved swiftly, using the terrain to their advantage, and took the aliens by surprise. Plant the charges and fall back, John ordered as the charges detonated. A massive fireball engulfed the command post, sending a shock wave through the Zarthan ranks. Their coordination faltered and the human forces pressed their advantage, pushing the invaders back. Admiral Zarin watched the battle unfold on the hollow screens aboard his flagship. His frustration grew with each Passing moment, why can't we break them? He demanded. Commander Ralph hesitated before responding. Admiral, the humans are unlike any foe we face. Their adaptability and tenacity are beyond our calculations. We need to reassess our approach. Sarkin's eyes narrowed. No more half measures. Prepare. The orbital disruptor will turn their base into a crater if we have to back on the ground. Sergeant Ramirez received a distressing report. Sir, our satellites have detected a massive energy buildup in the Zorthian flagship. They're preparing to use some kind of super weapon. Ramirez's jaw tightened. We need to take that ship out before they can fire. Harris Johnson, get your teams ready. We're taking the fight to them. The human soldiers rallied once more, determined to defend their home at any cost as they prepared for the final assault. The resolve of Earth's defenders shone brighter than ever as the human soldiers geared up for their most daring mission yet. Sergeant Ramirez gathered the key members of his team in the command center. The gravity of their task hung heavily in the air. We're about to hit the Zorthian flagship directly. Ramirez began. This won't be easy, but if we don't take out that super weapon, Earth is finished. Lieutenant Harris nodded. We've pinpointed their weak spots. Sergeant, will go in fast and hit hard. Corporal Johnson chimed in. The element of surprise is on our side. They won't expect a direct assault on their ship. Ramirez looked around at his men, pride swelling in his chest. Let's show these aliens what it means to mess with humanity. Move out. The team boarded their transport ships, sleek and modified for stealth. They ascended through the atmosphere, the blue of the earth giving way to the cold darkness of space. The Zorthian flagship loomed ahead, a menacing silhouette against the backdrop of stars. As they approached, the human ships activated their cloaking technology, slipping past the outer defenses undetected. They landed in a hidden docking bay, and the soldiers disembarked, weapons at the ready inside the ship. The corridors were dimly lit, in eerie silence pervading the alien vessel. Ramirez signaled his men to move in formation, their steps silent but purposeful. They encountered minimal resistance at first. The few Zorthian soldiers they met were swiftly and silently neutralized. According to our intel, the main reactor is just ahead, Harris whispered, pointing to a large blast door below it. Open. The demolition team set the charges and took cover. The explosion rocked the corridor, and the humans surged forward through debris. The reactor room was vast, filled with humming machinery and glowing energy conduits. In the center, the massive reactor pulsed with an ominous light. We need to plant the charges at the base of the reactor, Johnson said, directing his team. Moved quickly as they worked. An alarm blared through the ship. The element of surprise was lost. Zorthian reinforcements flooded into the reactor room, weapons blazing. The humans took cover, returning fire with deadly precision. We're almost out of time, Ramirez shouted over the den. Johnson, Harris, cover us while we finish setting the charges. Bullets and plasma bolts flew through the air as the human soldiers held their ground. Ramirez and the demolition team worked frantically, securing the last of the explosives. Charges set, Johnson yelled. Fall back, fall back. The humans retreated, fighting their way back to the docking bay. As they boarded their transport ships, MERS detonated the charges. The reactor room erupted in a massive explosion. The shock wave tearing through the Zorthian flagship. Punch it, Ramirez ordered, and the transport ships sped away from the doomed vessel. Admiral Zoran watched in horror as his flagship disintegrated, the super weapon's energy building uncontrollably. No, this can't be happening, he screamed, but it was too late. The flagship exploded in a brilliant flash, a testament to human ingenuity and bravery. The transport ships descended back to Earth, landing amid cheers and celebrations. The human soldiers emerged weary but victorious. Sergeant Ramirez stood before his men, a smile breaking through his stern exterior. We did it, he said. Simply, we showed them what humanity is capable of. Lieutenant Harris grinned, clapping Ramirez on the shoulder. You bet we did, Sergeant. Earth is safe thanks to you, Corporal Johnson added, and thanks to every single one of us. We fought like hell, and we won. As the sun set over the battered yet resilient human base, the soldiers celebrated their hard-fought victory. The Zorthian threat had been neutralized and Earth remained free, but the message was clear: humanity was not to be underestimated. They had defended their home with unmatched courage and determination, proving to any would-be invaders that Earth was not an easy target.